Welcome to the Thriving Misfits, the podcast where we celebrate resilience, embrace diversity, and challenge norms. I'm your host, Fyiona Yong, and today we're diving into compassionate leadership with an extraordinary guest, Jackie Dela Cruz. Jackie is the Managing Director of SmartAge Solutions, a leading design-focused provider of smart home, smart glass, and smart lighting solutions. In this role, she is shaping the future of how people live and work through innovation and technology. Before moving into the world of smart automation, Jackie built a long and fulfilling 20-year career at Shell, and this is also where we met. And those years gave her both depth and breadth, leading people, navigating change, and driving business results across industries. And Jackie was recently recognized as one of the most influential Filipina women in the world by the Foundation for Filipina Women's Network, an honor that gave her a new sense of purpose to empower women, champion leadership development, and push for innovation that creates real impact. And in this episode, Jackie shares how compassion and leadership is not just a nice to have, but a business imperative. She'll break down what it means to lead with the heart, inspire teams, and drive success without losing the human touch. So let's explore how compassionate leadership can redefine success. Welcome, Jackie.
Oh, Fiona, thank you so much for that introduction. Nice to see you.
Great to see you too. And like I said, we both started off our careers, or at least we both met each other for the first time at Shell. And I believe we were working on some change management project at that time.
Right. And we were very much focused on coaching back then. So that's where we clicked.
That's right. And this is how the story continues. So Jackie, thank you so much for being on the podcast episode. I wanted to ask you a question that helps the listeners to get to know you a little bit better first. So if leadership were a smart home, what kind of feature would be non-negotiable for it to run smoothly?
I love that. I'd say connectivity. For smart automation to work, there should be a strong and stable connectivity. And similarly, in leadership, without it, everything fails. There should also be trust and safety within the space. So I'd say pretty much connectivity, trust, safety.
Great. Now let's kind of unravel your life story a little bit. So if we would ask a 10-year-old Jackie what she wanted to be when she grew up, what would she have said? Did you ever have a childhood business like a lemonade stand or selling snacks or even like another creative side hustle?
Nothing like that. But if you ask a 10-year-old Jackie back then what she would like to be when she grew up, I'd say being a teacher. I think early on, I really want to share my knowledge. I want to learn from others. So I'm always in awe and I love my teachers. I learn a lot from them. They are an important part of who I am.
Wow, amazing. I hope that you're still in touch with them. I think this is such a great testament to how they have actually made an influence in your early childhood, and then also going into your work life. Now, growing up, I mean, you just mentioned great teachers in your life, but growing up, did you actually have a specific role model who influenced your particular leadership style? Were there any early experiences that shaped how you lead today?
Let's go back again to my childhood. So I would always think of my parents. So my mom would always say we got our intelligence from our dad, and we're grateful for it. But what struck me the most, and I think that shaped me as well as a leader, is my mom. She's she's a true nurturer. There's always that space, safe space for us to learn and thrive. So I have a very good childhood where my mom would lead us. I know she's strong, but there's also that soft side of her. So, and I think that's evident in how I lead. So I think those are the key people in my life that influence how I lead now, both of my parents.
It's so inspiring. I mean, it's great to have such role models and mentors already in your life when you were born. So definitely you were in that great spot. Now, was there a specific defining moment in your early career that made you realize you wanted to become a leader? And also, especially when it comes to leading with kindness and compassion, which is ultimately the topic for today.
Yes. Okay, before we touch on leading with compassion, I think there's always that leader in me because I'm very competitive. Back in the days, I run competitively. I swim competitively. I'm part of a varsity team when I was in college. So there's always that competitiveness inside me. But earlier in my stint in Shell, I was exposed to great mentors who early on has set me up for success. And since then, I always wanted to do more. So when there's an opportunity one time to lead a team in customer service, and back then we were the pioneer of customer service, we were about 10 to 15 people back then, and now they have 4,000, 3,000 seats in
Wow.
SBO. So just imagine back then, very small group, but there was an opportunity to be a team leader. And I raised my hand, sort of asking if that's something that I could do or they can consider me for.
I would say that's so courageous of you to do that. And I think, especially for female professionals, we tend not to raise our hands. We tend to be more in that waiting mindset where we're probably just waiting for someone to ask us, please apply for that role. So, how did you get that courage to raise your hand and to also have that confidence to say that, yes, I can do this?
Don't get me wrong, even here as a culturally and women up to our time, we were raised to wait for your turn. We were raised to just keep it to yourself unless you're asked. But of course, when I was raising my hand, I was doing like this. If not so sure if that's something that I could do, but at least there's initiative from my end, and it's good that there were leaders. Although back then we lack female mentors, we lack female leaders. It's Shell is predominantly male, so I was just lucky enough that my mentors, Dennis Javier, John Bengson, they're very, very open and I'd say supportive of women to progress. So yeah.
I mean, likewise, I definitely benefited from having great mentors in my career. Even at the start, I was still working in Shell Germany in the refinery, and I was trying to figure out, we were implementing the new SAP system, GSAP. So lots of my colleagues, they have been there for 20, 30 years, as you can imagine, in a refinery, long tenures. And they were a little bit reluctant of change. So I had this opportunity to then lead that change journey for the refinery. But I also felt that, what's actually next for me? And at that time I was in finance. And even though I wasn't a finance graduate, just kind of like got into that path. And I actually raised my hand for my line manager to seek for a mentor for me. And similar to you, all my early mentors were actually men. Now, people I work with right now, especially the younger generation, the Gen Z, I always tell them that, one of the best things that you can have in your career or even in your life is to have a mentor. And then they would always ask me, like, how do I even go about to finding a mentor? What's your advice?
My advice is really to go out there. They should initiate. Mentoring, there needs to be trust. There needs to be common or aligned values. So it's important that you scan the people around you, you build that confidence to ask for it. It's not something that mentors will say, "Oh, I'll mentor you." Okay, so it's something that you need to agree with the mentor, but you ask for it. But of course, you have to be sure that you share your common values, that you share common grounds, right? So it's important that there's trust in it. So I'd say put yourself out there. I just remember something earlier when you said raising hands, right? There's also this so-called voluntold. It's not really volunteering, but you will be given opportunity to say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think we need to do that more, right, for the next generation talents, especially for those who are from underrepresented groups. They tend to have this imposter syndrome. And I think we also, if we are in that position of leadership, I think this is also where we can play a huge role to advocate for these talents who are sometimes feeling that they are not good enough.
Right. Right.
Now, let's talk a little bit about compassionate leadership. What does that actually mean to you? And also, why do you think it's so important?
Okay, for me, compassionate leadership is being human first. I mean, of course, I'm not saying other traits of leaders are not important, but for me, it always the nurturing side of me, the compassionate side of me, the kindness must come first. So it doesn't mean you're lowering your standards. It doesn't mean you're being soft. It's about being clear and also giving that space to fail, to commit mistakes, and then try again. So I remember in Singapore, there's this unfortunate incident when someone told me, you know, the problem with you is you're so nice. And I politely corrected that person, saying, I am kind. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a big difference between that because nice can slip into people pleasing. But if you're kind, you are understanding of the circumstances.
Totally agree. I mean, I love this definition that you have, and that resonates deeply with me as well. But still, as you mentioned, this one individual doesn't feel that it's gonna have a impactful. Um, Maybe it's not impactful enough with regards to performance of the team. So I'm sure that some people think that compassion and business don't mix. How would you prove them wrong? I mean, you just mentioned you corrected him to say that you're kind, but are there particular success stories or achievements that you could share with us so that we can really understand that compassion still has a huge role to play when it comes to leadership?
So I'm known in Shell as Mommy Jax. I don't know if you've heard that, but a lot of people call me Mommy. So I think being compassionate, being kind gives an environment of success and people thrive. So in every organization that I've been to, and in every team that I have led, I've never changed my style. I think that's something that innate. So, and looking back, I think I have accomplished our team, my team back then, and our team right now have accomplished so much because we were in an environment where we thrive. So, and that I think is an evidence of compassionate leadership resulting to good results. So it doesn't mean I'm not tough. If I'm required to be tough, there are tough conversations that I do, probably more than people imagined. There are tough situations that I have dealt with. If that time requires me to be tough, of course I will be tough. That's your role as a leader. But I don't need to choose between being respected and being kind. I can be both.
Yes. And I think it's also where you can still be assertive and clear about the direction, about, making sure that the team is progressing into the right direction to achieve the common goal, but still kind of pair it with a gentle approach. Right? Still staying assertive, but with a gentle approach. I always like to mention that. And it's just also reflecting back on my early career as a leader. I mean, my first leadership position, I was actually the OTC manager for Hong Kong. So for
I
those who
remember
are
that.
not in Shell, it's basically the head of custom operations. And all of my peers were definitely older than me and had experience in operations. And I also felt that I needed to stand out for the right reasons because my team in Hong Kong, if you look at the dashboard, if you look at the KPIs, everything's green already. But it's like, how do you elevate the team from good to great?
Yes.
right? And how do you help your team to actually stick out for the right reasons as well? So for me, it was through coaching. And because I felt that even though in Shell, don't get me wrong, we had really great leadership programs, right?
Yes.
But I felt that, especially for first time leaders, not so much. And I was also unfortunately overlooked for one of the leadership trainings in my first year. So I had to actually get certified as a coach outside of Shell, and then bringing in coaching principles, helping the team leads, the mid-level managers, to then also embrace the coaching approach, asking more questions instead of
Yes.
only providing advice.
Yes.
And we saw actually an increase in not only employee engagement, but it also has had an impact on the customer satisfaction index. So that's the business case there, right? It's not just about pushing your people to meet the targets and the KPIs, but I think it's about the approach that we can tailor and customize to make sure that we create an environment of a learning culture and supporting people to be the best version that they can be.
True. I agree.
Now, how do you balance being a strong business leader? I think, especially now, you've taken over a new role. How do you balance that with also being a role model for women, female entrepreneurs? Because, as you said, there are not too many women who were role models when you first started off your career in the oil and gas industry, because it's a male dominated environment. So yeah, how do you do that? What are you doing to support female entrepreneurs?
How am I doing this? I think it all boils down to having a great support system. So when I say support system, it could be your immediate family, it could be your siblings, it would be your friends. What is important, because for you to be able to be the best version of yourself, you need to be surrounded by people who really believe in you, right? So how do I support other women? I cannot accomplish all of this without the support of my immediate family, right? So they gave me that opportunity, they gave me that time liberation, they gave me that opportunity to help others as well. So I think for those who are conflicted with or preoccupied, if I can say that, being too busy doing a lot of stuff or doing a lot of things, and then probably they would say, I don't have time to be a mentor to someone because I have a lot on my plate. So that probably is valid at some point. But if you are surrounded by people who will help you, you have time to help others as well. And in business, what we normally, very generous of my time. I love speaking in public, especially if topic is about leadership, recently I was a guest for a mind conference, and the topic was mindset. So the main topic for that is basically what your mind can perceive, the body can achieve. So that's where I can link that back to being busy and everything. But if you want to still mentor others and be of support to others and empower others, you can do it for as long as you want. So another thing also is just by listening. Listening for me is one of the trait of a compassionate leader. So just by mere listening, you are helping someone already, without judgment, without any conclusion.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, well, thanks for your time as well to be on the podcast. So truly appreciate your generosity. I was just talking to a friend of mine who is an executive coach. She is also a mother of two. And because of that, she's also cutting down on her working hours. And, as an executive coach, sometimes you are a solopreneur, and she's kind of struggling to find that balance. And also there's a lot of I would say maybe negative self-talk or self-limiting belief. So how could you, what kind of advice would you give, especially female solopreneurs, to maybe overcome that self-limiting belief?
I um I, I may not be able to say this very well because I'm not in their position, right? But I think it speaks in general. Surround yourself with people that you admire, and how they and their story of resilience, their story of success, because it's a humbling experience to see a lot of people who are basically before probably they're also struggling in terms of confidence, struggling in terms of prioritization. But if you learn their story, it's something that will speak to you. So again, earlier I mentioned about putting yourself out there. I'm going back to that topic now, wherein you have to surround yourself with people that are basically positive, successful, humble, accomplished, empowered. And I am fortunate because in the introduction you mentioned about the recent award that I got. So it's actually a foundation of it's association of Filipino women, and it's actually based in the US, but they have expanded globally. And I've actually in that sisterhood, I met a lot of accomplished women. So before I thought I've accomplished a lot, and then I was introduced to this group. It was a humbling experience, actually. I was telling myself, oh my gosh, my accomplishment is nothing compared to them. And yet they're very humble, they're generous of their time, giving free advices, be it business or personal. So I think by being exposed to those kind of people helped me, and I would advise other people to seek that as well.
You know, when you talk about sisterhood, I think this is such an important topic. We celebrate International Women's Day, but it should actually be celebrated every day. And
Agree.
I've, I mean, reflecting back on also like my career journey, whether in corporate or even now as an entrepreneur, I do sometimes feel and recognize that the male supporters are more visible than the female supporters. So I think it would be good to hear from you. What's your take on that? And how do you also actively support and uplift women, not only in your organization as an MD, but also outside? Like, what is it that you proactively do?
I look for opportunities where I can share my story. So this is one. So and then even I would go out with my girls, with my daughters. All of them are grown ups. So we would normally have this we call it afternoon tea, and we share and we have deep conversation. We have reflections during the time, and we share that to our friends. So whatever we have discussed during that time, we share that, we amplify messages. So even these small groups, and then sharing it with your other groups, these important topics that needs to be heard by women, especially struggling women, is important. So yeah, I think I have probably have not said it enough. It's really looking for opportunity to connect to people.
That's why you said connectivity, right?
Activity, you're right. Everything fails without that.
And with that, you're also creating that positive ripple effect. It's I mean, it sounds so easy, but sometimes the easiest thing's not so simple, right?
Yes.
So simple to implement. And I think it's, connectivity. I also see it as creating meaningful connections. I know that people always talk about networking, but for me, I just don't really like the word networking. It's just sounds so opportunistic. But if we are trying to create meaningful connections, if we stay in touch, and I think if we give more than we take, which by the way reminds me of Adam Grant's book, which I really love, learning about givers and takers. I think if we give more, the universe will provide, and we will attract everything that we need to have an abundant life, right?
I agree. I fully subscribe to that. Even as a young girl, I was taught to be like that. If you give, you receive more. you attract more blessings. Yeah. But let me also share with you about the courage to speak, but also humble enough to listen to other people, and also do not be afraid to be judged. A lot of people, they don't go out there, or they don't connect thinking, I don't have contribution to that discussion, or I don't have anything to share, or probably it's a waste of time because I have more important things to do. But so end of the day, priorities are important, but really having that connection with like ex-colleagues, I mean friends. I have friends in Shell where we get together every month still. I would normally host them here in our showroom. And I keep on telling them I like to talk to like-minded people. So I would invite them. I like to be challenged as well whenever we have that discussion. You are challenged in the way you're thinking. I mean, things like that.
Yeah, and you talk about humility. That's such an important, not only leadership attribute, I think is a important human attribute to have. I've also recently read another book by Adam Grant, and it's about rethinking and having this mindset of relearning. And he was talking about confident humility. So still being confident, but also still being humble to understand that you don't know everything, and everything that's happening in the world. And this is how we learn. This is how we grow. And it's actually good to be also surrounded by people who are different from you. And that's the reason why we should be embracing diversity, because if everyone is same, we wouldn't have all these amazing ideas. And you are in such an innovative industry where you probably need a lot of people in your team who feel free to speak up without the fear of negative consequences.
Yes, that reminded me of your book. Remember, post pandemic, I got some of your books and I gave it to friends and family. So I like what you said there about owning your being a misfit. Let that not limit you. Let that be an advantage. So that's your story to tell, and people can learn from it.
Absolutely. I think everyone has a great story to tell. I was just at a TEDx event in KL last weekend, had the great opportunity to speak. But not only that, I was able to witness 29 other speakers sharing about their passion, about their conviction, trying to create ripple effects, a positive ripple effect. And even those who are not seasoned speakers, it's such a huge courage to just, again, raise their hand to say that, hey, let me just try it out. Let me put myself out there and maybe risk being judged. But definitely, it's such a huge courage. And again, everyone has a great story to tell if we're willing to listen.
Yes.
Now, what kind of advice, what kind of killer advice do you give women who also want to step into leadership roles, but they struggle with their confidence? And again, probably the self-limiting beliefs.
Remember that the people that you admire now, were once lacking confidence too. So I think if you are surrounded by the right people, where it's safe for you to fail, you gain that confidence, you gain that voice. So I think we're always going back to that side of having the right support system, being connected with the right people. So that's my advice. Just remember that these people that you admire, whoever it is, they may look too confident, so confident now. But remember, they were once lacking that too. Through experience and through connections, you gain that. Even now, I still have a lot of aha moments when I'm exposed to people like you, because there's always something to learn, and that adds up to that confidence, to that credibility.
Yeah, and I think it goes vice versa. So for everyone who is already, very seasoned leader, to also remember how you first started, because I get senior leaders telling me or complaining about, especially the next generation, the Gen Z,
Yeah.
right? Not being resilient, not being flexible. not being assertive, but I think it's about reminding ourselves how it was when we first started off in our careers. We were like that too. We
Yeah.
were extremely intimidated by our more senior, mature colleagues.
Right, right. And I remember before I would always doubt myself, or sometimes I would just not say anything, thinking they know it anyway. But I was once told by Edua, I love Edua, our country chair, one of the best influence in my life, especially as a leader. He's very humble, very wise. Um, I remember one time when he was asking me to speak. We were in a conference call, and it's a regional call. So you'll hear a lot of people from other countries raising or sharing whatever they have in mind. And I remember he asked me, "Why are you not speaking?" And I told him, "I'm waiting for my turn." And he said, "That turn may never come. You have to raise your hand, or you have to speak up." And the thing is, there's a lot of positives by opening up. You'll be able to test your idea. It may be good or bad. It doesn't matter. I mean, if it's wrong, then you will be corrected. If it's good, so at least you gain that confidence. You learn from others if they speak up as well, and then they will learn from you. And then you develop that rapport as well, just by speaking up. So yeah, he was really pushing me, and I think that was one of those moments where, yeah, I think I have to do that more often.
And I hope you're nudging other people in the room who feel that they don't have a voice, right? I think this is where we can now step up and nudge the other individuals.
Right, right.
Now, Jackie, loving your insights on compassionate leadership and also how you empower women in the workplace. Very, very inspiring. And it's really clear that your leadership isn't just about driving business success, but also about creating a culture of care, collaboration, and impact. So thank you so much for sharing your journey from your early influences, your parents being your role models, and of course, seeing what you're doing now, how you're shaping the next generation of leaders. So for those who are listening, if Jackie's story resonated with you and you want to learn more about leading with both heart and strategy, connect with her on LinkedIn and follow her journey. And if you're looking for more conversations on leadership, inclusion, and making a meaningful difference, don't forget to subscribe to The Thriving Misfits on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Make sure you rate and review the podcast. And with that, thank you so much for listening. Until the next time, keep thriving, Misfits. Bye for now.